having to get a new engine. So it's like hydro locked or something. Simple but silly. I'm not mechanically inclined. Nothing was working. Nothing was working. Like, I totally messed up the motor. All I want to do was split. Damn it! And welcome back to Fire Addicts, to another episode of Travis Does Firewood. And today we're going to figure out why my new splitter won't start. So last week I used the machine Monday and Tuesday, and in that time was the short that it keeled over on its side for a second because I tried to lift up this massive fur chunk, right? And then the following day, I think it was Wednesday, in the afternoon, I went to go start it, and the darn thing wouldn't start. But when I did that, the log lift, it was up. It was up, flat with the table, right? And I had a bunch of chunks ready to go for me to split. Well, it was kind of hard for me to pull the recoil, right? So I figured there was load on the hydraulics. So I took off the chunks off the table, and the table went down, okay? Because from my experience using a tractor before, I know that sometimes with the hydraulics, having the bucket be up or whatever, have a load on it, it will mess with having to start the engine, especially if it's linked, right? Linked with the hydraulic motor and the engine. So I did that, and it was still, it's still difficult. And I was perplexed, and I was bummed because I wanted to get some work done. I wanted to get some split. I believe this is dead standing maple, or a mix. I don't know. I think it's a hardwood. Regardless, it's wood. I'll burn it. But I want to get split, so it's ready to go for next fall. That and it's in my yard. I have some time now. Let's get split and get it done. And I wanted to use the machine. I don't want to split all that with a Champion. No, I want like fast splits, fast cuts. Spitfire, you know. So, but it wasn't turning on. So I was trying to figure it out. So I took out the spark plug and looked at it. It's dry. Looked fine to me. Checked for spark. I had spark. Went to the local hardware store. Bought another plug for it. Installed that. Still nothing. But I was perplexed on how difficult it was that the recoil. So it's like hydro locked or something. So I'm messaging people who I know. I don't have a local mechanic who I trust that could do chainsaw or small gas engine work, right? So I'm mentioning my friend down south of me who knows engines. I'm mentioning having to text Tony over at Bucky Assaz. I'm stock over at a Stock's Farm. People who have more insight over on small gas engines than I do, because I'm a novice. I don't know what I'm doing. I can replace a spark plug. I can change the oil and something like that. But beyond that, like it's beyond my expertise. Talking about like valve covers and like I don't. That's pew over my head, and so I didn't. And I hope I didn't mess this up, potentially by having it tip over a little bit. So then so then it rolls into Thursday, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to mess with this too bad. So I email Splitfire. I say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I've done. There's no wetness on the spark plug. It's been undercover. Even the engine's below the table, so it's not gonna get wet from the rain. I changed the spark plug, did that stuff, all this stuff. I emailed them, and then I said, I will forward it to the engineer and he'll get back to you. So I'm trying all this other stuff with having to troubleshoot with friends, and I drained the gas to check for moisture or water. Nothing. There's no separation of anything. Gas is fine. I know on the Honda GX200 motor, I'll show it to you. Right down there. Right there's a oil level sensor. So if your oil level is too low, the machine will shut off and or won't start, right? So the machine was level ground, more or less enough. Checked the oil, a little low, so I added a little bit. Still nothing. Still really, really hard to pull. And I took off the recoil several times, like twice, maybe 3 times. And I pulled it, still fine, nothing. And then I would put my hand on the motor, return it, and there's some resistance, but it was still like it shouldn't. So I don't know, I'm thinking like worst case scenario, like I totally messed up the motor. Like, what did you do, Travis? Crap. So I'm just bummed. So I spent several hours on Thursday trying to fiddle with it, trying to troubleshoot. All I want to do was split. All I want to do was use my Splitfire 1165V, kick some butt, get some split done. But no, I'm having to fiddle with it, trying to get it to work. And it was just fruitless. Nothing was working. Nothing was working. So I don't like it when things work, especially when I'm not mechanically inclined. So like, and I don't want to pay someone to work on my stuff for me. And this machine does not have very many hours. I need to install an hour meter on this bad boy. I should have done that right when I got it, but I didn't. But you should do that just to track the hours on it. But even though I've had it for several months, I have been running it. There have been even a month or maybe several weeks that I haven't run the thing. So the machine does not have very many hours on it compared to the Champion does. So like, I don't think I messed it up that bad. Like, what did I do? What did I do? But I think I fixed it. I think we solved the problem. I'll show you. So I'm in my office. This is now Friday morning, right? I'm in my office and I'm texting with my buddy Tony over at Bucky Saws, and he is trying to troubleshoot with me because he's the type of guy that if there's a problem, he's going to solve it, which is great. And trying to figure it out. Then finally, I get a response from Splitfire, and so I send them some clips, some photos, what I've done, type thing. And then fast forward, and Tony texts me an episode from Up in Smoke. It's about 10 months old, and he has the electric version, the electric motor of the same splitter. And he was popping breakers, and he was trying to figure out what was going on. So I'm watching this episode. I forget the guy's name there. That this knee part was doing something like funky, because on the Splitfire 1165V, this controller is for the wedge going up and down, the splitter. It also controls the log lift, okay? And you add more one walking component because I opted for the knee pedal right here, where I can use my knee to split, and that adds a little bit more funkiness, right? Well, I was right about the load part, And I'll show you what happened. I'm not sure why it happened, but yeah, simple but silly. So took off the load before, like I mentioned, on the log lift. It was down, but right here, somewhere in here got wonky, okay? There was, so this plate means this plastic part, and they have to be aligned properly and meeting, because this plate will turn off the hydraulics on the arm to make it go back to neutral, because this wants to go up when you want the log lift to go up, and then down when you want the wedge to go down, right? So it has a dual function, right? But right now it wants to be in the neutral spot. Neutral angle to dangle right there, right? So I didn't realize this before, but there was a gap, like 1 inch gap between these plates right here and this plastic part. Silly, stupid, simple. So then I get a call from the engineer over at Splitfire. It's now a Friday afternoon for him over there in Ontario, freezing cold Ontario. The guy calls me, and he's about ready to go on vacation, and he doesn't want to leave me hanging, even though there's other guys there, but he doesn't want to leave me hanging. Rick over there, thank you for the phone call. And as we're talking, at the same time, or right before he called, I was watching this video over at Up in Smoke about how he on his own splitter had to adjust these bars and such and get it to work. So as I'm doing that, I'm like, hey, there's something going on here. So what I ended up doing is adjusting the knee, and then slowly pulling the recoil, and this all went back to fine. It all went good. Okay. So with the recoil, with the pull start, what it felt like, it was like hydro locked. There's like water or gas or whatever, oil, something that should not be in with the piston was in there, and it felt like it was locked up. And again, like that's beyond me, and I was perplexed. But it was because there was somehow this got wonky over here and created some sort of load on hydraulics where the pump wanted to be engaged. I think I'm correct on that. And that was prohibiting the motor starting. Just simple. So if you have an 1165V and you have one of the engines that's on this, note that. Note that there has to be no gap up here, okay? And or sometimes the log lift can't be up. It has to be down, no load on the hydraulic. Now, if for some reason this gets out of adjustment and you need to adjust this, okay? That's doable. That's not hard to do. What you do is these two bolts right here. 1, 2. Not these ones on the other side. Don't adjust those. These ones here, loosen those up, and this metal plate goes up and down. Up, down a little bit to where this white plastic part meets and hits these 3 narrow tabs. Now, for those of you who don't have this splitter, you don't have the 1165V. This is a yawn. I get it, but this is for those potentially who want one, or you have one and this has happened to you. Okay, so that's, I guess, one of the, it's not a flaw, it's just, and maybe not a downfall, a potential issue with this specific splitter because of what is connected to the hydraulics and what can engage the hydraulics. It's one of those things just to keep in mind. So now that there's no more gap here and I don't need to adjust it, let's turn it on and see if she works. Oh yeah! So I'll let that warm up for a second, but now that she is working, let's get the splitting, because I'm behind now because I had a day and a half of no splitting, a day and a half of trying to troubleshoot this darn thing. Now it's running, so now get to work. Get it. So after a day and a half of not being able to use the splitter for something super simple, overlooked, and reaching out to several friends, explaining them the situation, sending them clips and pictures, it was an easy fix. Shout out to the folks I mentioned before, as well as for Rick over at Spitfire for helping me out, for taking the time with this busy day to call me, but I just wanted to give them a shout out. So if your machine has a really hard time with the recoil, with the pull string on your splitter, check your hydraulics. Log lift down and make sure this point right here, up here, there's no gap right here. Okay, if it does, adjust it. What you do, I think it was, put it on the opposition and just start pulling slowly, and the gap should decrease. I think that that's the way to check it. If I am wrong on any of this, please let me know down in the comments. Again, if you have the electric motor, go ahead and check out Up in Smoke's episode on very similar and are the same issue. But I'm glad it was a simple fix. I was dreading having to mess with Spitfire or having to get a new engine. This upgraded engine wasn't cheap. I think I spent $300 more on the upgraded Honda versus a Lincoln, whatever engine that comes with it if you get the base model. But I opted for the Honda because if it does mess up, then I can take it to any small shop and they could probably fix it versus another one. It may not be as easy to fix and troubleshoot. But yeah, thank you everyone who helped, and I'm glad it was a simple fix. But again, if you have a hard time pulling the rope, check hydraulics. So, rock and roll. I hope this helped someone watching. For those of you who don't have the splitter, just thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Yeah, so that's episode. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And remember, life's too short to be a prick, so be kind to one another. Rock and roll. Stay safe. Keep cutting. Cheers. Get this crap away. I would hope that the folks over there over at Splitfire would be as courteous as to me as they would a person who doesn't make content on social media. I think that they would probably treat you all the same.